Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Melissa and around here you're going to find all sorts of beauty content. And one thing about me is I happen to especially love eyeshadow palettes, so every single Monday I really like to deep dive into the palette of the week and let you know all my findings about it. And for this week, we're going to be talking about this palette right here, and this is from Profusion Cosmetics, and it's called the Delightful Dahlia palette. As you can see, this is quite the small palette, more so than we usually go for, and this is very blue based. So here's what that color story looks like on the inside, and throughout the past week of me using this, I already did hit pan on that glitter shade. You know I just can't pass me up some glitter. So I really like to break this video up into two parts. The first part of this video is going to be a step-by-step tutorial, and today the look that we're going to do is called the circle eye look. And I really like to do that type of eye look when I see kind of a gradient in the shades of a palette. It's a really fast and easy eye look, and I think it really does a good job of showing what these colors can do in here. And of course, the second half of this video is going to be the in-depth review portion. So if you're curious about my personal thoughts about this, my entire experience using this, anything like that, then be sure to stick around for the second half and we'll definitely get into that. And real quick guys, I just wanted to let you know a few things before we do get started with the tutorial. I just want to quickly throw in here that this is going to be the last tutorial I'm going to be doing until January. I'm actually going to be starting the Vlogmas season this coming Thursday, and I'm really excited to get into it. But I'm definitely going to keep the makeup content coming during Vlogmas, but I'm also going to incorporate a lot of other things. But I'm going to push these tutorials until January. So on Wednesday, we're still going to do the end of the month makeup routine and declutter video. But after that, Thursday starts Vlogmas, and I'm super excited to get into it. So guys, with all of that being said, let's get right on into the tutorial. Hey guys, welcome up close and personal. I moved the camera up close so you can see what's going to be happening on my eye for this tutorial. So if you've been around here before, then you know the first thing I always like to do is go ahead and do my eye prep and prime routine. And of course, if you're not into seeing this, I'm going to go ahead and pop a timestamp up here so you could go ahead and move straight on into the eyeshadow look. The first thing I'm going to take is my Revlon Candid Concealer, and I'm going to go ahead and apply this to my entire underbrow region. Now last week when I made a video, I didn't do any eye prime or prep steps because the palette didn't really call for it. It worked just fine on a completely bare and untouched eye. But as I've been using this palette, I find that you get a significantly better result if you do go ahead and prime and prep your eye area. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a few extra minutes, pop on some primers, a little bit of setting powder, just so I know I get the best and maximum performance out of these shadows that I can. For the lid part of my eye, I'm taking my NARS eyeshadow base, and I'm just going to go ahead and pop a little bit of this on there and up into my crease. And I'm going to go ahead and blend this out with my Wet n Wild Essential brush. This is truly a workhorse brush, and it is not very expensive whatsoever. I think I found this one at Dollar Tree, but you can also find it on Amazon. And then lastly, to set my primers, I'm just taking some Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder. I've been playing around with how much actual powder to be putting on my eye, and I've been trying to put less powder, and I've been kind of liking it, but of course that can change with time. I'm just messing around with stuff. Alright guys, so our eye is prepped and primed and ready for eyeshadow. And this eyeshadow look, like I said earlier, is super fun and it's really easy. I think when I did the pictorial portion of this, there was only about 8 steps on it, which is really not a lot of steps from what I usually do. So since this is a quint, I'm just going to go ahead and hold it up to the camera and show you which shades I'm going to dip into. For this look, I thought it would be best to work from darkest to lightest so we can really have a true gradient from the crease to the brow. So the first shade I'm going to go into is this dark blue called True. And I have a lot of shadow on my brush right now. So the way I'm going to disperse that is I'm going to stamp it all the way around my crease. Once I get the majority of the shadow deposited on the upper lid, I'm going to also take that brush and bring it all the way in a circle fashion to meet at the inner corner. So essentially, when you're done patting your brush around your eye, you should have what looks like it to be a circle. Once I connect everything together, I'm going to go ahead and start deepening this up and blending it out just a little bit. I still haven't gone in for more shadow yet. This is the same amount of shadow that I started with. Looks like this can go south really quick if you oversaturate your brush with product, so just be very careful with how much you pick up and apply. Now I'm taking a little detail brush and going straight back into that deep blue shade, and I'm gonna go ahead and pat this onto my lid. I really want to fill in this so I get a really smoky look. You also want to bring this all the way down to your lash line so you don't have any bare spots visible. Now we're gonna jump into this periwinkle shade right here called Rainfall. And with this shade, I'm gonna go around the same circle, but I'm just gonna dust this ever so slightly on the edge of that blue. This is gonna be our transition shade because we're gonna be putting purple on this next, and this is the best shade to use when you're trying to cut into another color that's obviously not blue. And then lastly, I take the same brush and I'm gonna go into this bright purple shade, and I'm just gonna make little circles around this entire blue edge, all the way around the entire big circle. And for the lower lash line, now I'm going to take a smaller brush just so I can have a little bit more of a defined edge. Then I found a natural hair brush to really get in there and blend everything out really well to work the best in my situation. Once you're done blending, you can go around your eye and clean up this entire bottom edge so it looks more cut. And then for the lid, I just took my finger and dipped lightly into this glitter, and then I just kind of sporadically placed it all over my lid. I don't want to build it up at all, I just want a few pieces all over the place. And then for the inner corner, I took this metallic shade right here. This was the hardest shade for me to work with in the palette, so just be careful with it. And I put this inside the inner corner and I kind of worked it in so it took on more of that blue tone shift that it has. And there's the entire circle eye look. Told you it was super easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw on the other eye, put on some mascara, and I'll be back and we'll talk about it. Okay guys, so here's the final finished eye look, and I just love this look so very much. I know I always say this, but blue is totally my favorite eyeshadow color. When I went and bought this palette, I actually bought all the little color stories of them, and of course I had to play with the blue one first because this one was just calling to me. I think the colors in here are really fun, it's easy to play with, and it does look flattering on the eye. And of course, there are so many other looks to be done with this. You don't just have to do this look, but given this palette, this is what I choose to do with it, and I love it. So if you're curious to hear what else I have to say about this, then let's move right on into part 2 of this video, which is the in-depth review. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of this video, which of course is my in-depth review, and today we're going to be talking about this little palette, which is from Profusion Cosmetics, and it's called the Delightful Dahlia palette. Now the first thing I always like to talk about is a palette's packaging, and this packaging is what I would call very standard. This is just a simple generic cardboard exterior and does have the little plastic see-through window. But what I do kind of like about it is it does have this really nice Dahlia art design on the front, and on the inside you do have this little teeny mirror inside, so if you ever need to use a mirror, you do have that accessible. So something else I do want to note about this is that it does happen to fold all the way back for easy handling. So when you open it up, you're getting 5 different shades in here, and they each weigh 0.89 grams per pan, so that is definitely below the average amount per pan. And something else is that each shade in here is a pressed pigment. They are all pressed pigments. So if you're sensitive to pressed pigments, or if you're careful to not use them on the eye, then please be aware that that is what this is. This palette and all the other ones in this series are also made in China. So let's talk about the formulas you're getting. According to my observation, you're getting 3 different formulas in here. There are 3 mattes, 1 pressed glitter, and 1 creamy putty-like metallic. Real quick, I'm going to throw up a picture of some swatches I took from this palette so you can see how every shade looks swatched out. So let's move right into our routine data check. This palette is not specified to have any type of clean formula, or this product is not any type of conscious beauty effort. This palette is cruelty free. It is also vegan, and if you look on the back right here, there's a little symbol that signifies that this does have a 24-month expiration date. Now moving into the cost evaluation, if you went out and you bought this palette as it is today, it would cost you $6 whole. Breaking that down a little bit, it comes to $1.20 per shade, and breaking that down a bit further, it comes to $1.35 per gram. So comparing this to other palettes available on the market, the price per shade is pretty affordable. And additionally, this has a relatively affordable price per gram compared to other palettes that I've previously reviewed. So let's get into the most opinionated part of this video, which happens to be my recommendation. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is my usage experience with this. So I've been using this over the course of the past week, so I'm going to tell you how that went. As far as patchiness, I didn't experience any sort of patchiness while using any of these shades. The longest I wore an eye look coming from this palette is for 5 hours, and after my little mini wear test, I didn't have any signs of creasing, no color fading, or no signs of wear while using this. I do want to note that I did experience some staining with this dark blue pressed pigment right here. I also do want to note that I tested the blendability of this formula. So I tested it on a completely bare and untouched eye, and then I also tested it on a prepped and set eye. I do want to say that I did notice a blending difference between the prepped and set eye and the bare eye. I thought it was a lot easier to blend on the prepped eye. It did function on the bare eye, but it did take a little bit more effort. So I want to go as far as to say that if you plan on using this palette in the future, do take the few extra minutes to prep and set your eye so you can ensure you get the maximum performance out of these shades. You're going to notice a lot of kickback from these shadows, and I had quite a bit of fallout on my face, so I definitely recommend doing your eyes before your base. But one thing I do want to note is that I didn't have a ton of fallout from this pressed glitter because it is self-adhering. Now let's get into some critiques about this palette. Now, the first thing I'm looking at is the palette's range, and I'm seeing a lot of midtones in here and one option for depth. Now, I'm not going to go crazy about that and be overly concerned about that because overall, this is just a quint. When I look at a quad or a quint, I really want palettes like that to provide for one solid staple look, and if it does that well, then overall, I'm happy. As far as shade redundancy, there is no repeat shades in here. Each one looks different, applied and swatched. The formula balance ratio in this palette comes out to be very well balanced. You're getting 3 mattes, 2 non-mattes, so if you love a well-balanced palette, this is definitely right up your alley. As far as dud shades now, I almost want to call this creamy, putty-like metallic shade a dud shade right here. I had a lot of application issues with this, and you really have to be careful with how you apply this because it can get really textured really quickly. I personally do not like shades like this and find them pretty difficult to work with. So moving into the formula highlights, I do like that you do see a simple gradient in the matte, so you can do some gradient builds if you're into that. The blend between the mattes wasn't flawless. I did see a bit of harshness as I was trying to blend them. And the mattes are more directly pigmented. So you know how some shades can be buildable? These are going to give you intense pigment as soon as you touch your brush to your eye. Formulas like this can be a lot more difficult to manage and control if you're not aware of that going into it. As far as the non-mattes, like I said, this is a creamy, putty-like metallic, and this is a duochrome, and it has a white to blue shift. So depending what light it's in, it can look all sorts of different colors. This shade also does have little tiny mica particles that can fall out and ruin your makeup if you do your base first. And like I said, this shade is just really hard to maneuver, so beware of that one. I also attempted all application methods with the 2 non-mattes, and both of these work the absolute best when you use your finger to apply them. All in all, I highly do not recommend using a dry brush with either of these 2 shades. So if you saw this while you were walking about in the store and you were curious about it, or if you've been on the hunt for a little blue-based drugstore palette, I would overall say that this is alright and decent for the price. Of course, I have 3 reasons why I say that. My first reason is that I do want to reiterate that all these shades in here are pressed pigments. That may be a bad thing for some people, that may be a good thing for others. My next reason is that every shade in here goes very well together. So no matter what look you create, be it 1, 2, or 3 shades, you can use all of them in conjunction with one another and still come out with a really pretty look. And my third reason is that for the most part, the formula is satisfactory at this price level. This is by far not the best formula I've ever used, but for me paying $6 for this palette, I am overall satisfied. So guys, so the rating that I gave this palette for this week is a B. I liked it. I think it was cute. I think if you get it, you won't be disappointed with the looks you get from it, but I do not find it to be without flaws. So yeah guys, that's all I have for today's video, and like I said, this is the last tutorial I have until January. So if you like this video, please give me a giant thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, of course, just hit that thumbs down button. And until next time, bye!